welcome to Blackbriar Gaming. Today we're going to look at the faction focus for both the Loyalists and the Traitors. There's plenty of interesting stuff we've gotten here. We're getting a good look and an understanding of what the Rites of War will look like, and that title means something kind of completely different now, but I know this is something a lot of people were concerned about, we're interested in, and were waiting for. So let's take a look. But before we do, a quick note that the Blackbriar Gaming Discord and Patreon are of course live. I have just put up a new Patreon video the other day that looks at all of the special rules in the leaked rulebook. That is all of the special rules that we will get in the 3rd edition rulebook, which I don't know if it's anywhere else. So if you're interested in that, jump on over, check out the Patreon, but otherwise jump in the Discord. There's plenty of friendly people in there having a great chat about Heresy. All right, back to the faction focuses. Here we have the Loyalists. So welcome everybody. We're going to look at the new Rites of War. What a scene that is. That looks fantastic. Those are some wonderfully painted Raven Guard, not Raven Claws, like I said in my last video, which was pointed out by more than 1 or 2 people. But let's keep going. So, thanks Matt. To play the Loyalist Legions of Space Marines, yep, they're bulwarks, sure they are. Let's keep going. We're interested in the rules. Give us the good stuff. Going down, Rites of War. Okay, this is what we're here for. So it will have become clear to existing players that the rules for the Space Marine Legions have changed quite a bit from previous rule sets. The changes to Rites of War are some of the most obvious, but rest assured that the Legions all still feel different from each other. I'm sure they will. Now, the Rites of War is now the overarching title for each Legion's rule set, encompassing their Legion Tactica, Gambit, Advanced Reaction, and Detachments. Now, notably, we don't have anything about war gear in there, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But we also don't have anything about warlord traits in there, which haven't been mentioned, I think, at all. And it appears that gambits are kind of overtaking the concept of warlord traits. My hypothesis is that they didn't want characters to become unreasonably complicated. They wanted to lean on this new dual mechanic and therefore have gambits be a thing. But if your Traitor had both a gambit, a warlord trait, maybe they were in a prime slot, so now they've got all kinds of extra benefits from the prime situation. It'd just get out of control. Suddenly, your character has 3 or 4 special rule things going on. So they obviously decided to draw it down a little. And when I say obviously, I'm assuming I don't know if we 100% know there won't be warlord traits, but certainly we've seen nothing about it. So I'm going to assume so. Instead, they will have gambits, and instead they will have prime slots they can go into to get certain benefits. And those prime slots might change between detachments. So it says here, of course, that we are getting Legion-specific detachments, and it might be that the prime slots in those detachments can do different things. Maybe not. I'm not sure. Wait and see. But let's continue with the article. Tactica offer unique mechanics to the entire army, while gambits and advanced reactions reinforce the various fighting styles of the Legion archetypes at an individual and squad level, respectively. Yep, very good. So let's look at the Space Wolves Legion Tactica here. The Space Wolves make a longer setup move. There's that bolded, simple text that gives you an idea of what it does before it gets into the actual rule. Models with this special rule must add +2 inches to the distance of any setup move to a maximum of 6 inches. So, firstly, that seems pretty powerful. An extra 2 inches for all units to charge is pretty significant, and this is the part of the charge, the setup as we call it, that allows you to get in before volley fire happens. So if you're the setup move for regular infantry that's moving 7 will now be 5 inches. So as long as you're within 5 inches when you charge, enemy units cannot volley fire at you. I'm not sure if they can do the reaction to shoot at you, Overwatch or whatever that's called. I'm not sure if that gets around the setup move. I would have to have another look at that, and I'm frankly just not going to right now. But the setup piece is significant. This is bigger and more impactful than just +2 to their charge move. The setup move part of it is a significant piece. It is to a maximum of 6 inches, so you're never going to be able to assault more than 12 inches, is something to keep in mind. But this makes your charges very reliable and certainly decreases incoming fire from enemy units. But people have pointed out that in previous editions, first and second respectively, the Space Wolf special rules had multiple pieces to it, right? They had, extra weapon skill here, they had a ramming piece here, there was extra charge stuff going on, and it seems toned down is the words that people are using, and that they've taken what was a whole bunch of different rules for the Space Wolves specific to their legion, and there's now just kind of one. Now, yes and no. So, yes, that is the case, but now you have gambits as well, right? So there's other special rules going on. It's not the case that there's less, and that there's going to be less flavor and less Legion-specific stuff going on. And in fact, when we look in the Traitors, you can see that other Legions, their special rules actually are quite still significant and detailed, and there's more than just one thing going on. For the Space Wolves here, they've just got one. Maybe they've done that as a balance piece. They just wanted to keep it simple. Maybe they see this as quite powerful and therefore they didn't need more. But don't forget, you still have the gambits, the advanced reactions, the unique detachments, all that other stuff going on that will add to the flavor of your legion. So I just wanted to make a comment around that because I did see that pop up a few times. Next, we have what have we got here? Is it an advanced reaction? No, it's a gambit. So it's a gambit of the Raven Guard. This gambit allows the model to make a single attack first, this decapitation strike, followed by the remainder of their attacks if the first is successful. So, single attack first, right. So, they make an attack outside of the focus step by the looks of it. Let's see. Instead, no focus roll is made. Instead, the controlling player of the model for which this gambit has been selected makes a single attack at the end of the focus step. If the hit test and win test made for this attack are both successful, that is, they meet the required target number, the controlling player of the model with this gambit may then make the remainder of the attack. So it doesn't have to get through their armor. It simply has to hit and wound, and you could aim towards that by building a particular type of character, and then they just get to strike first, no matter what. No focus roll required, they're just going for it. So that's fun. This is a pretty powerful gambit by the looks of it, and these are going to be really interesting. It's going to add a significant, when we're saying tone down, I don't think so, these gambits are going to add a significant layer of complexity. Now, can it do it just once? Once per challenge. So every challenge that happens, they can do this gambit. So it's not like an advanced reaction, which I think for the most part can only happen once. These can be used once per challenges. But I wouldn't worry too much about the complexity of these because there's not going to be that many challenges within a game. There's simply not that many models that will have either their command or champion, I believe, keywords or traits, and therefore will be able to make challenges, both from a friendly and enemy perspective. We're talking, I think, 1 to 3 challenges per game. So keep that in mind when reading these gambits. It's not going to be something you're doing every turn, every assault phase. And of course, these duels go on, if you wish, really until someone wins and someone's dead, right? Something to keep in mind when looking at the gambits. Moving on. I'm particularly excited about the Space Wolves Hunter Strike. Yep, it's talking about it. Once per challenge. Great. Thanks, Matt. Good to see you're excited. Now, advanced reactions are often once per game abilities that have the potential to turn the tide if used well. Yep, once per game. Great. A perfect example of this is the Dark Angels of Vengeance of the First Legion, which allows a unit to repeat the combat phase. Wild. Perfect for Inner Circle, Cenobium, or Deathwing companions. I'm just going to read the flavor text here. I love the flavor text is always my favorite, and I'm sad that I didn't read it out before, but it just seemed like a bit much. Vengeance of the First Legion. They would not tire, nor would they wane. Only in victory or death would the Dark Angels thirst for vengeance be sated. When reading through the special rules, when I was going through that, I read all of the flavor text, and it was so good. It went so hard. But getting back into this reaction allows the controlling player to choose to repeat the fight subphase. Absolutely huge. When does this happen? Once per battle, declare, after the last initiative step. So it happens before an enemy unit has a chance to disengage or be routed, fall back, if you will. The Dark Angels can just hammer their close combat goodness home and just absolutely murder their opponent. This advanced reaction seems really powerful. Some of the advanced reactions in 2nd edition fell a little flat, I think, but the ones that we've seen in both the Loyalist and Traitor articles seem really good, and this one in particular is absolutely wild. We go through a trigger, a cost, and a target. So the advanced reactions and the reactions in general in 2nd edition were sometimes a bit vague and left some room for confusion. GW seems to be attempting to make sure that is not the case with the reactions now, as well as really all of their rules, and certainly you could make no confusion here. Okay. It's a lot. But moving on. That seems good. It seems really good. The advanced reactions are seeming really powerful, as they should be. They're a once per game kind of thing, right? That's what makes your Legion really special. Force organization manipulation was a staple of old Rites of War. All legions gain an additional auxiliary detachment, while some also have an apex detachment. These allow players to add units that are thematically appropriate to their culture more efficiently than by utilizing the standard options, without removing anything from your toolbox. So, this is some debates I've been having. The Rites of War, of course, as we all know, they used to have a bunch of bonuses, a bunch of benefits, but a bunch of restrictions as well. A bunch of essentially punishments for taking that Rite of War, getting the extra power from it. Now, the issue was a bunch of those Rites of Wars, particularly the Legion ones, the cost that you were having to pay to take that Rite of War, the restriction, the punishment, it was just too much. It was too much for players to stomach, and they simply didn't use those Rites of War. Instead, they used more generic ones, which were much more usable on the tabletop. But a lot of the Rites of War just cut so many units out of an army, or were just so debilitating in the way the army could then operate, that people shied away from them. And I think Games Workshop has learned that lesson and decided to move away from it. Now, a lot of people are disappointed about this. Those restrictions, those kind of punishments that you had to deal with, the balance of the pros and cons, really gave flavour to the armies as well, and really made the legions feel unique. Do I still think they'll feel unique without those restrictions and punishments? Yeah, I think they do. And I think it will mean that these Rites of War and the way that you use them, these kind of detachments that we can now take, these different ones, and I'll get back to that in a second, I think they'll then be a lot more popular, and people won't feel like they're losing something from engaging with them. Pros and cons, people. Pros and cons. I am okay with it. I understand why some people aren't. I certainly didn't mind some of the downsides. It made for very flavorful interactions, but it was also quite complex, and things could get missed. So, is it streamlining? Is it toning down? No, I don't think so. Is it moving in a slightly different direction that gives players a little more freedom? Yeah, I suppose it is. Now, these additional auxiliary detachments and apex detachments, what will they look like? So, I don't believe they will be unit specific. I think they will involve those generic kind of unit groupings that we've already seen within the Force organization chart, and that will continue. But it will mean that certain legions, let's say a White Scars Legion, might have access to a detachment that can have a bunch more bikes and land speeders all in one, and not have to take as many characters to fill out their army with those. That might be a good example. Now, what we don't know is if these detachments will either... Oh, yes, we do. Finally, you have unique prime upgrades. All right, there we go, which apply a thick coat of Legion Gloss over common units. The Imperial Fist Castellan is a great example, modifying a Centurion to capture their role as a defensive heavy weapons expert and line officer. Interesting. Imperial Fist Castellan, was that a console upgrade previously? I imagine so. So it looks like Legion-specific consoles will be applied through Prime upgrades. It also gives them the opportunity to give all kinds of special other rules, things that might have felt like Warlord traits, potentially, 2 Prime upgrade slots for characters and units within Legion-specific detachments. That's really interesting. We'll see what some of those unique Prime upgrades might look like. I'm interested also to know whether some of those detachments, auxiliary or apex, that are Legion specific, will have additional rules to them. One of the things we know is that cavalry will not be able to capture objectives. That is crippling to White Scars, and White Scars is that's the army I'm looking at, right? So that's why I keep using it as an example. So it'll be interesting to see if a detachment for the White Scars Legion will have a special rule that says jet bikes taken as part of this detachment can have line, or can capture objectives, or whatever that looks like. Maybe they won't. Maybe jet bikes have the Vanguard special rule now, and they just have to murder people to get those points. I'm not sure, but there's lots of potential here, and essentially Games Workshop are just applying Legion special rules in a different manner, and in slightly different ways that all connects back into the way that they're doing the Force organization chart, potentially to avoid confusion. Now, will it be confusing? For a few people, and for more than a few, perhaps, to start with, I think so. It's a new system. We'll have to learn it. I think it will become pretty intuitive over time. There will be a bit of a challenge to begin with, but I certainly plan on making some videos about it and transferring old armies into the new Force org charts and what that might look like, but I'm not doing it yet because I want a bit more detail first out of the levers. Moving on, standout units. My number one slot has to go to the humble Legion Centurion. Matt, you vanilla man. Whereas before they were taken because folk couldn't spare points for a champion, but wanted the weapon skill buff, I don't think that happened very often, they're now a critical pillar in army construction. Just how they should be. Love it. Love it, Matt. Second slot, I'm going to give to the Medusan Immortals. Now, this is a little more interesting. They're new. For anyone that isn't aware, the Legion Centurion, what they do is open up extra detachments, 2 instead of just 1, so that you can take more interesting units in your army and a more diverse spread of units in your army. That's enough for that. Back to the Immortals. Their new unit rules really represent their background as the Forlorn Hope troops. Shields, expendable 2, and very high leadership and cool make them unflappable in the meat grinder. What a phrase. Expendable 2. I'm not sure if it says it here, but we know what that does. Essentially, it means you only give up that amount of points that you see there, which is the 2 points, I believe, when you are killed as part of a mission or a secondary objective or primary objective, whatever it is, that gives kill points for units. So let's say First Strike. One of the missions, I believe, has First Strike 4, certainly more than 1. That is, First Strike, you get 4 points for achieving First Strike. If you were to kill the Medusan Immortals, for instance, that would only give you 2 points instead of those 4 points. That's what that talks to there. So it just means they're a little more, funnily enough, expendable, and you're not too worried about them being killed to giving away victory points. That's not the most exciting unit I'm sure he could have come up with. But here we are. Lastly, I wouldn't be an Imperial... Oh, he's an Imperial Fist player. Well, that just sums that up, doesn't it? I wouldn't... But sorry to all the Imperial Fist players out there. I think your army's great. I've got one upstairs. Imperial Fist player if I didn't put Sigismund up there. At a mighty weapon skill 7 with 5 attacks, that's a bunch of attacks, and a custom gambit to improve his critical strikes, he's the legendary duelist he deserves to be. And with how much fun challenges are now, he's doubly worth it. Love the positivity coming through in this article. It's more positive than me, and I thought that was impossible. Now, critical strikes, for anyone that doesn't know, essentially if you roll 6s to hit, it is an automatic wound, and it does something else as well. Maybe it affects the AP, I can't quite remember. But either way, it's kind of like you roll a hit, you roll 6s, you're doing wounds. You're doing a great job. I think it has something to do with damage as well. Maybe it increases the damage of that attack. Either way, critical hits are good, people. They're really good. They're like automatic wounding hit things. They're fantastic. And if you're improving those critical hits, my goodness, he is going to be an absolute monster. Shame about his face. All right, moving on. I could write another whole article on all the cool changes coming with this edition, but the highlight is the variation in scoring victory points. Now, I don't disagree here. There's more nuance to scoring, both via objectives of varying value and special rules like Vanguard and Line, which provide much deeper tactical gameplay and rewarding balanced list building. I don't disagree with you there, Matt. I think we know what the Line does. The Vanguard is if you kill a unit or make it a rout while it's holding an objective. If you have the Vanguard special rules, you score an amount of points in X by doing so. So the enemy unit has to be on the objective, essentially. They have to be holding it. That is, you're not holding it or it's not contested. And then you have to kill them completely or get them to rout off that objective. And if you do that, you score points. I believe units like Terminators and Assault Squads are going to get this. Maybe Jet Bikes will get this too. That would make sense if they can't capture objectives. And the idea is that those units are not fabulous at holding objectives. They don't have lines, so they're only scoring 1 point while holding it. Not cavalry. just the infantry units, but they are great at killing units. So it's really encouraging you to build this kind of balanced force. Part of your force to hold the objectives with the line special rule, and part of your force to push the enemy off the objectives, preferably doing it with vanguard units, so you're scoring extra points when you're doing it. It's like some kind of encouragement of combined arms to achieve objectives and using them in a tactical manner. I'm really liking everything I'm seeing around these special rules and the way that objectives and points are working out with the new missions. But that is the Loyalist. Takeaway there, we're still getting a bunch of special rules. Rites of War still exist, just in a different way. Unique detachments will mean that similar things are happening to what they used to, and that advanced reactions are looking super powerful. This advanced reaction is nuts. Let's move on. I'm already at 20 minutes. Let's move on to the Traitors. Down we go. All right. We've got James. James is now taking us through it. All right, James, what do you got for us? We're here to defeat the Emperor. We sure are. I'm all about it. Of course, the heresy progresses. Loyalists and traitors start to diverge in tactics and even troops. Now, we do read an interesting part here. The Emperor's children and world eaters are the first to see big changes. Did I miss something in the Loyalist article when I ignored that first paragraph? Let's see. The Loyalists are on the back foot, forced to engage. Well-rounded, capable of deploying forces and mass infantry, blah, blah, blah. We didn't. All right, very good. Just wanted to make sure. That would have been embarrassing. So the Emperor's children and world eaters are the first to see big changes, and they both get 2 Rites of War each. This might mean that they're the only legion that get 2 Rites of War, but this is really cool. One representing their forces in the earlier years of the Heresy, and another representing their corrupted incarnations as the Civil War draws to a close. That's fantastic. Right, I'm back. Sorry, just drink water. Amazing. So Emperor's Children and World Eaters, they may be the only ones that get this. They get 2 different Rites of War, so that you can represent those earlier incarnations of those legions just at the turn of the Heresy, where they're not that messed up, or you can go full messed up traitor style. I think this is really great. One of the issues that a lot of players had of these legions in particular is that it was hard to represent a nice pristine force versus a really corrupted one, and it looks like Games Workshop is into it and making it happen. Rites of War. With the core rules changed, a number of the Legion Tactica has shifted too. One to watch out for, a number of the Legion Tactica. Not all. That'll be interesting to see. This one's so good though. One to watch out for is the Nails Bite for the World Eaters. It's a massive game changer, letting you tap into the uncontrollable frenzy of the 12th and channel that rage towards any unfortunate loyalists who might be within axe range. This Tactica, it got me really excited. The Space Wolves one, little lackluster, little mediocre, little short, not overly exciting. This is fantastic. Here we go. Deep under the effects of their invasive neural implantations, the World Eaters became heedless of conventional military strategy and often ignored the logical goals of battle in favor of debased violence and the chance to cause blood to flow. From whom it flowed was often a secondary consideration. Killing it with this flavor text. James Workshop? Well, it is James talking to us here, isn't it? The controlling player may choose that a World Eater's unit becomes lost to the nails when it fails a leadership check. Fabulous. All right. Moving on. Now, what does that mean? Lost to the nails. When a unit becomes lost to the nails, all tactical statuses affecting it are removed. That is, in itself, if it was only that, so powerful. Now, interestingly, it does say they're removed, not that you then can't get more tactical statuses. Something to consider. In addition, because it's only when you fail a leadership check that you can get lost to the nails, right? And can you get lost to them multiple times? Let's keep going. In addition, while a unit is lost to the nails, models in that unit may add +1 to the distance of any setup move. So they're just, this small part of it here is just half of the Space Wolves rule, right? But they're also losing all tactical statuses while failing leadership checks. Okay, sure. But I guess you have to fail it first, right? So you can't just do this whenever. So it's not like, oh, they're half as good as the Space Wolves just from this. Well, that's not true, because there's certain conditions that have to be met. Next, they modify the attacks characteristic of models in that unit by +1. That's also really good. Models in that unit are considered to have leadership, cool, and willpower characteristics of 10, unless it would be higher. Really good. And if at the start of the controlling player's charge subphase, the unit is within 12 inches of any enemy models, that unit must make a charge move. If more than one enemy unit is within 12, it has to be the closest enemy unit. Now this is potentially debilitating. Look, as it should be, right? We've got all these amazing special rules they grab up here, losing tactical statuses, +1 to attacks, +1 to charge, leadership, cool, and willpower of 10, but here, they must charge if within 12. Now, you may be saying, that's okay, that's not an issue, but you've got to remember that not all units can actually charge 12 inches anymore. Your regular infantry, and a lot of World Eater's armies will be made up of regular infantry, that is infantry on foot, not with jetpacks, not moving any further, will only be able to move, let's see, 10 inches, right? So they've got this +1 to the setup move, so you've got 4 inches from a regular move 7 infantry model, right? And then you've got up to 6 when you're all the D6 or 2D6 as it were. So you can only go a maximum of 10 inches with a lot of your army, but if an enemy's within 12, you have to charge them. So the enemy, if they're being wily, an adversary, might be able to bait some charges that you are guaranteed to fail by sitting at that 11 and 12 inch mark. So a canny opponent will be able to take advantage of it. I don't hate that. That's the whole point, right? These people are frothing madmen out of control, and a well-disciplined canny opponent is going to be able to take advantage of it. I don't hate it. Now, at the start of the controlling player's charge subphase, if there are no enemy units within 12 that of a unit that is lost to the nails, the unit is no longer lost to the nails. So that's how they lose it, essentially. Interestingly, I think you can still apply tactical statuses to a unit that's lost to the nails, because it doesn't say you can't gain them, it only says they're removed. And it's when it becomes, not, if it's under the influence of. So I dare say you can still route them, so it doesn't make them utterly fearless. And the fact that its leadership, cool, and willpower goes up to 10 implies this as well. So it's not, the old kind of fearless that we had. It simply then becomes harder to apply tactical statuses, but you still can once it's in this mode. But that aside, I don't want to go, I'm going deep into the rule and I really shouldn't be. What I should be saying is just that this is great. This is super flavorful. It's hitting the lore. It's sticking to the narrative. It's powerful. It's got some depth to it, both from how you use it and how your opponent can take advantage of it. I love everything about this. And going from the mediocrity of the Space Wolves tactica, not that it's not powerful, just that it's not exciting, right? And then going to something like this, wild. If more of the tacticas are like this, I will be a very happy man. Moving on. That's a lot to talk about, that one. Now, if melee combat isn't your thing, look no further than Perturabo and his new gambit, the Breaker. Should a champion of the Emperor have the gall to challenge him to a duel, the Primarch can simply signal to a nearby unit to gun the arrogant whelp down instead of bothering to raise his own weapon. I've already seen some memes of this. I've seen some comics. It's pretty great. Essentially, they get into a challenge. Perturabo looks at the opponent and goes, no, I don't have time for this. He looks over to a nearby tactical support squad or whatever it is that's within 12 inches and goes, I'm gonna need you to take care of this. And then they get to make snapshots, which are hitting on 5+ for the most part. It should be mentioned for normal ballistics skill for Marines, hitting on 5s, not 6s now. And they get to target the model that Perturabo is in a challenge with. Crazy. Now, it does still happen. You still need to do the focus situation, so this isn't going to guarantee you going first with this. But let's say you have a tactical support squad with a bunch of melter guns within 12 inches. You get to just have a chance to absolutely gun down this poor chump that's decided to take on Perturabo. This is crazy. This is so strong. And I can't wait to see the rest of the gambits for the Primarchs. This is fantastic. And it sounds like they're going pretty spicy. And the character of it, right? The lore of this, the narrative, it's just all there. It's so good. All right, so the Breaker, pretty powerful. Get to just shoot some chump down that Perturabo does not have the time for. Honor, overrated. Moving on, Night Lords players quickly notice that night fighting isn't in the core mission pack. That is correct, it is not, which I'm so okay with. Night fighting was an absolute pain in the butt. It added so many layers of rules over games and could absolutely shut certain armies down. But worry not, the addition of tactical status now brings previously overlooked options right back into the game. Nothing feels better than proving your superiority by using heavy flamers and your widespread access to the fear special rule to panic your enemy. There we go, Night Lords. Lots of fear. We've heard it here first. Then stride up to them and score an objective they thought they controlled whilst they cower in your very presence? Is that a question mark? Strange, that's a question mark. Alright, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the changes to cover. Medium and heavy cover. This article is all over the place. Medium and heavy cover allows your traitor legions to run the gauntlet towards their loyalist foes more safely, blocking line of sight between their guns and your forces. We don't know entirely how medium and heavy cover works yet, I don't think, but we do know that it's more generic. What better ways to make use of this than with the better part of valor, which, I mean, there are probably better ways to make use of it. It's a strange connection that they're making here. It's loose at best. Letting you melt away into cover should an enemy want to charge you, ready to continue terrorizing the enemy next turn. And I think it's because fallback moves aren't affected by cover is maybe what we're talking about here. Alright, sure. This reaction allows its better part of Valor, Night Lord's advanced reaction. Now, we saw the very powerful Dark Angel ones before, allowing you to just attack again in a combat. This is the Night Lord's one, and it allows a unit to fall back. Now, it doesn't say once per game. Does it say once per game here? Let's see. Trigger. The reactive player may declare a better part of Valor advanced reaction. Targets, which only includes models with the Night Lord trait. 1 point of their reaction allotment. Paid as soon as it's declared. This might be more than once per game. It's what it looks like to me. If you think otherwise and you think I've missed something, please let me know down in the comments. But essentially, the reaction allows a unit to fall back when it is the target of a charge. So Night Lord's players are just going to be an absolute menace to pin down in combat, because they're going to be, as it says here, just melting away into cover or just out of your reach as you try to get to them. So to get to them, you're going to have to get real close, drive right up to them, maybe with a transport, jump out 1 inch away, and then try and charge them to try and pin these sneaky boys down. Let's see, what else we got here? And then it just goes into a bunch of cases around the advanced reaction. Just make sure you don't get it wrong. So precise. This is really good. This seems really good. And if you can use it more than once, what an absolute pain in the butt to play a combat army against Night Lords. They're going to be melting away. They're going to be countercharging. They're going to be shooting you while you're left out in the open. Notably here, once you do fall back, you do not gain the routed trait. Just in case anyone was curious. Yep, once this fallback move is completed, the reacting unit does not gain the routed tactical status. So you can operate completely normal in the next turn that you have. There's no punishment, no downside to this at all. This is absolutely fantastic. The advanced reactions are looking really good. And if you can use it more than once, wild. Now we just get into some Thousand Suns. We're just jumping into some of them and just talking about a Dreadnought. Alright, my favorite unit so far is the Thousand Suns Saturnine Dreadnought, and taking one of these with the Pavoni Prosperine Arcana is great. At the cost of a reaction point, so is this implying... Now, the Stone Form Psychic Reaction, I can't recall. We do have the Psychic powers, but I can't recall if the Stone Form Psychic Reaction is a regular one, or is it unique to the Thousand Suns? Is it unique to the Pavoni Prosperine Arcana? A question to ask. If someone has the answer for that, please put it in the comments. Stone Form Psychic Reaction to give the model +2 toughness. I think that sounds familiar, actually. I think that's one of the generic Psychic reactions. For the remainder of the shooting subphase, making it a mighty toughness 10. Crazy. Add to that its thermal diffraction field, and you have even las cannons and multi-melters wounding it on 6s. I love this bit. This is great until Perils of the Warp inevitably removes its last wound and it explodes. But at least it goes out doing what it loves, channeling uncontrollable amounts of warp energy. That's fun. James, what a joker. Next, I'd have to go with Ashen Circle. I'm really hoping Thousand Suns are good in the new edition, because geez, they struggled in second edition. But third, it gives me hope. I have so much hope for them. I really quite like them. I don't have an army of them, but I really quite like them, and maybe they're on the list if their rules are looking pretty spicy. Next, James is going with Ashen Circle from the Wordbearers, whose role on the battlefield is clearer than ever before. This unit steers hard into the new tactical statuses with their Acadic Hand Flamers. Did I say that right? Causing Panic 2. hitting opponents with the routed condition even before you charge them. Maybe, right? They have to fail their leadership check, but it is at -2 here, which is pretty wild if you cause a wound, of course. And I believe what this is talking about, when it says before you charge them, is that you get to shoot while charging in now, right? That's a thing. They get to volley back at you, but there's actually an extra step in assault where, as long as they're assault weapons or they're pistols or whatever they are, you can shoot them as you're charging in, as well as, I believe, in the previous shooting phase. So there's just flame going everywhere from these guys, almost guaranteeing you victory points from their Vanguard 3 special rule. So I was talking about the Vanguard special rule before. Vanguard 3 is crazy. So if you kill some poor tactical squad that was sitting on an objective, you're going to score 3 points from it, and then the 1 point from sitting on that objective afterwards. That is really powerful. Okay, if the enemy is on an objective, their axe rakes are nothing to turn your nose up either. Phage. M? Movement. Right, okay. Hamstrings enemy units, that makes sense. You wound for the rest of the game. Now, it's enemy units, so it's not just models. There was a bunch of rules. There are a few rules in 2nd edition that Phosphex, was it, or Radphage, or something or another, would affect an enemy unit model if it's wounded. Now, that just didn't happen that often. So, like, it would have to be a character, or it'd have to be a 2-wound model, and it would affect, from a toughness perspective, or whatever it was, just that individual model. So you then had to track, model by model, which ones had been wounded from that specific weapon, so that you knew that specific model was affected for the rest of the game. It was an absolute pain. It didn't come in very often, but ridiculous rules writing, right? Here, it just impacts the whole unit, which makes so much sense, so much easier to track, much better design from this perspective, and it looks like Phage then cuts down their movement, which is fun because that will affect their ability to get away, right? So that's pretty cool. So the axe rakes manage to get in and just slow enemy units down by just cutting the tendons in the back of their heels or whatever this is talking about here. Great. Fun. Ashen Circle, I hope they're good. They look good. Being able to put Panic 2 Flame all over the place can't be bad. Alright, that's it. My favourite thing about this edition is army composition. Ooh, this is spicy. It's a spicy comment. It's very debatable. The variation of armies we're going to see on the tabletop is going to be unparalleled. Dramatic turn of phrases here, James. Yes, you can take loads of multi-melter armed heavy support squads, but you're probably going to lose to someone bringing loads of tactical marines. You certainly would. There's such a variety of ways to approach winning that I found it impossible to write an army list that looks unbeatable. Expect to see a much wider variety of themed army lists coming to a table near your very soon. I agree with this, and I've talked about this previously, is that 2nd edition armies started to get a bit stagnant. We knew what was good. Things kind of looked similar. You didn't want to take many tanks. You wanted to take some dreadnoughts. You needed tactical marines. You probably wanted to put some sniper weapons into your army. So things started to look kind of samey, and James is here telling us that will not be the case in 3rd edition, and we will see a lot more variation, and I just think he might be right. But we'll wait and see. That is enough for today. That is a look at both of these, what do they call them, faction focuses. We're starting to see some actual rules for the legions, which is fantastic, and I love to see it. Everything I've seen here looks pretty great, maybe except the Space Wolves special rule, or their tactica, I should say, which wasn't overly exciting, but who knows what kind of other shenanigans they've got going on, from advanced reactions, gambits, their unique units, their unique detachments, their special prime slots that they get for their legion. There's so much other stuff out there. The Space Wolf players, please do not despair. Your tactica may not be the most exciting, but it's probably pretty powerful, and there's plenty more rules to come. That's enough for tonight. I've gone on for 38 minutes now. I can't help myself. I'm so excited for the new edition. Importantly, make sure to keep rolling those dice and getting hyped for Heresy.